Hello, and welcome to Joshua Wessex with me, Josh. This is a YouTube channel where we try and use logic, reasoning, and common sense to look at the world around us and see what's going on. If you like this sort of thing, please do like this video, please do subscribe to see more, and check out my other videos if you like. And also, it's a special mention. Paddy's here, but he's having a little sleep. But he did say if I get more likes, he'll start, adjusting his sleeping pattern and be more in the video. Isn't that right, Pads? Good boy. Anyway, but today's video, we're going to be looking about if you meet the radical left and what you should do if you'd meet them. So, when I say the radical left, I did a video the other day explaining the difference between left and right and how I think the labels aren't really appropriate. So, just a quick reminder, this is the political spectrum that I was working with. So, on the far left, you're looking at sort of fascism, communism, socialism, essentially state control so that the state can sort of impose its mandate on you. The radical left definitely want to do that, and I'll go through with you exactly what it is they're trying to do, and then, yeah, that's what I mean when I say radical left. If you have a different description for them, please stick it in the comments. Otherwise, that's what I'm working with. So, when I say the radical left, who am I talking about? Well, there's a group of people that we're talking about, but there's certain little factions that I'm going to bring up to help demonstrate what I'm talking about. So first off, we've got the pro-Palestine lot. So pro-Palestine, if you haven't been aware of them, you've been living under a rock. This is a sort of group of people, who are on the side of Palestine in the Israel-Gaza conflict. Now, with the pro-Palestine lot, the thing about them is they might have been around before. I don't know, don't care. But on October 7th, 2023, when Hamas, who's the government of Gaza, went into Israel and did very, very horrible things to about over 1,400 people. 1,400, sorry. That includes murder, sexual assault, and all sorts of horrible things to women, children, and men as well. The reason I bring that up is because within hours of Hamas doing that atrocity, these people were in London trying to get the license to protest on behalf of Gaza before Israel had even made a response. So that's the sort of people you are. They weren't protesting Israel's response. They were celebrating Hamas's actions. Hamas, remember, being a prescribed terrorist group. So, yeah, in my opinion, they're all terrified terrorist sympathizers and they're all nutters. So that's the first group. Second group, Stand Up to Racism. I think this is a UK-based group, but essentially, names on the tin, they stand up to racism. So they're anti-Islamophobia, which isn't a real thing, by the way, and they're anti-Semitic. However, in the UK, we've had these grooming gangs that were predominantly done by Pakistani Muslim men. Quite a racist thing because they were targeting young white girls. These people were protesting against the people protesting against the grooming gangs. So, if anything, they were pro-racism. So they're not really standing up to it, but they're standing up to it when white people do it, basically. So that's stand up to racism. Next, you know them, you love them, you hate them. Antifa. So these are the anti-fascists, which is what Antifa is short for. Original. They're big in the US. I think they're actually prescribed as terrorists now by Donald Trump, President Trump, sorry. And they also have a movement in the UK. Basically, a bunch of masked up pussies. That's who they are. They actually use fascist techniques to get what they want. So with fascism, it's all about shutting down opposing political views, restricting other people's ability to speak. What do? They scream in your face. They go to universities and colleges, threaten violence to stop people from making speeches, or if they do have a speech, they go in there and they just shout over them and stop the whole thing. So, yeah, really anti-fascist when you're being fascist. So, that's them. And last but not least, Karens. So, when I say Karens, the colloquial term for them is basically like a middle-aged, middle-class white woman generally, who are so entitled to their opinion and their way of thinking that they think they're above everyone else. So they'll tell you to stop doing something even if it's completely fine because they don't like it. Or as you can see there, they always want to speak to the manager because they're so entitled that they can speak to the highest authority, no matter who it is. So these are the people that I put onto the radical left. Karens, maybe not so much, but they're sort of in the same ballpark. So we're going to go with that. So what we're going to do now is go through the different characteristics of the left and kind of explain who they are and, again, what they're about. So, first and not least, they're unattractive. Okay, so if you look at this picture, these are the mugshots of Antifa members, and I think anti-ICE as well. Of basically these people were harassing the ICE agents trying to deport illegal migrants in the US, and so they got unmasked. These are their mugshots, and look at them. Try and find me an attractive one there. If you think you found one, you need to raise your bar a little bit. But essentially, yeah, they're all mingers. Now, the reason I bring this up is not just to be, mean. Being unattractive actually does have a few, effects on your personality. So if you imagine you're in school, which I have to imagine this. When I was in school, I was chubby, I had buck teeth, and I didn't use hair gel properly, so I always had fluffy hair. So I was basically a hamster. And luckily for me, I got pneumonia when I was 16 and lost loads of weight from that. So worked out great for me. Unfortunately for these people, they probably weren't as lucky as me. But you can imagine, it's pretty worse in American schools. I wouldn't know. I'm just basing this on, teen movies. But in the UK as well, if you're unattractive, like these people are, you basically become an outsider at school, don't you? It's pretty hard if you to make friends. You're a very easy bullying target. So you basically spend your pubescent years sort of not liking the world around you. You might make a close friend or two who also happen to be horrifically looking. And then when you become an adult, you've already got this jaded outlook on life. Then you find out, thanks to the power of the internet, there are other ugly people who also don't like the world. And then, because you do want to feel like you're part of a group or part of a community, well, you go in with both feet and say, hey, I'm part of this. Let me, and then you get really into it. So I don't blame them. When you're this ugly, you haven't got a lot of choices in life. So yeah, that's when I say when they're unattractive. And because of that, they just don't really like the world around them. So that's the first characteristic, unattractiveness. Second characteristic I would say is they're actually quite weak. So that's how Antifa think they look. That's how they actually look. Now, the reason I bring up this weakness, I don't mean just physically. They are physically weak. I mean, if you ever look at videos of Antifa people, all the blokes are either skinny or massively obese. Same for the women. Anyone who's ever kind of been to the gym and actually kind of worked on themselves knows that it takes hard work, it takes dedication, and there's no instant results. It takes a lot of sort of self-agency and discipline to kind of do anything worthwhile in life. The left don't really have that. They just kind of want things done now, done their way, and they can't take sort of responsibility or accountability for themselves, which is why they're so outward looking. So because of that, then they just don't have the mental resilience to take any challenges. I mean, you'll see all these videos of these lefties like like screeching. It's because they just haven't built up that resilience in life to actually be able to do anything. So and the second thing as well is a lot of these people are actually quite privileged. So like the Karens, they're usually married to a wealthy bloke who just lets them do what they want. So they've forgotten what a challenge is. Other people on the left, they usually got double-barreled surnames because their parents are liberal, and their parents seem to have money. But so they grow up with money, not having to actually really earn anything, and because of that, then they just, again, they don't have the resilience. They just think the world is a money tap, and they can just spend it, wherever they like. So don't really think sort of economically. So they're weak. The next thing I would say about the far left is they are actually, let's get rid of all these, sorry. I say they're intolerant. Okay, now we've grown up thinking that the left are the sort of hippies from like the 60s, peace and love, we love everyone, give benefits to the needy, they're so tolerant. But the problem is with these people, if you don't agree with every single one of their views, they are going to completely disown you. An example of this, J.K. Rowling. Right. So J.K. Rowling, for you that don't know, she's the author of the Harry Potter book novels. Massively successful. Now, here's the thing about J.K. She is a massive feminist. Okay. Prior to 10 years ago, she probably would have been an absolute thorn in people's sides. But probably banging a drum about feminism. Then she made the wouldn't say mistake, but she just made the move of saying, okay, with all these trans men now showing up, can we not have them in our changing room, please? That, I think, comes from her own personal story, which I'm not really going to go into because I don't know enough about it, but I've, seen clips. But, women's safety was at the forefront of her thinking, Nothing against the trans people, it's just we have women's spaces for a reason. The left completely turned on her. They tried boycotting her, but you can't boycott Harry Potter, can you? Daniel Radcliffe, Emma Watson, the cast of Harry Potter, they all turned on her. Everybody completely ostracized her, and she just doubled down. And I tell you now, if you're not on X, go on X, follow J.K. Rowling, because it is the funniest things that you're ever going to see in your life. She is, never have an argument with an author. I've now learnt. She will insult you in ways that you have never thought of before. So I love her. So that's them. That's intolerant. 10 years ago, she would have been a darling for the left. Now, they don't want nothing to do with her. Speaking of which, then, the next characteristic we're going to go into, the left are cannibalistic, okay? They eat their own. Just like with JK, if you don't agree with everything they say, they will completely turn on you, and that's it, done. An example of that is going to be recently Emma Watson. So as I just mentioned, Emma Watson was the actor who played Hermione Granger in Harry Potter novels. She turned on J.K. Rowling, and recently there was an interview she did where someone asked her about J.K. Rowling, and she gave this sort of placid response of, being able to love somebody who doesn't share the same opinions as her, which is what most people do, because you very rarely agree with someone 100%. So it's not enough to kind of fall out with somebody or not be friends anymore. I've got a few friends who are quite hard lefties. We're still friends. We just can talk about other things too. So there we go. Oh yeah, you know who you are, by the way. Hello. So, however, when Emma Watson came out and started chatting about this, the left just that was it. She's out. It doesn't matter all the work that she's been doing in the last so many years, all the charities or, all the activism she's done. You say one thing that's not in line, you're gone. So, on the screen there, what I've just got is some tweets from Blue Sky. I'm not going to enlarge them because there are some swear words in them. And I do realise that I think my mum does watch this, so I don't really want to do that. So, but essentially Blue Sky, for those that don't know, is where all the lefties went after Elon Musk bought Twitter and actually brought back free speech. They couldn't take it, as I mentioned, the lack of resilience. Their safe space got infiltrated, so now that's where they all go. And as you can see there, they're not the nicest people around. So they're cannibalistic. The next thing I want to mention is they're actually insane. I'm not going to go into this too much. I've done a video on trans. So long and short of it is, if you think a man can become a woman biologically, you're insane. The perception that a man can become a woman socially, yeah, you should have stuck to that. No, but the left said, nope, if I chop off my bits, put a hole somewhere, that makes me entirely a woman, I can have babies. Just, no, I'm not going to go into it. They are insane, okay? If you believe that, you're insane. Moving on then. The next characteristic that we got is, frankly, they're evil, okay? So when I say evil, I'm just going to put this image up while I just start talking. So, during the American election, the Republican candidate, now President Donald Trump, was shot in the ear during a rally. Now, luckily, he was fine and he's gone to become president. But at the time, all the people on the left were making these jokes about how the shooter should have hit. Kyle Gass from Tenacious D got their tour basically cancelled because when asked by JD, what did you want for your birthday, because it was his birthday, he said for next time the shooter not to miss, implying about Donald Trump. Now, you can say it's in bad taste, but to be honest, it's a happy ending because Donald Trump survived and he won the election. So yeah, kind of everything worked out okay. It's a bad joke. Yeah, we can make bad jokes, it's fine. Charlie Kirk, on the other hand. So for those that don't know, Charlie Kirk was a conservative speaker. He would go from college to college. He'd do debates, everything like this, and he'd basically just kind of have conversations with people. Charlie's whole shtick was about having discussions with the other side, looking at sort of compromise or just, listening to each other. If you go on YouTube, you'll find like, oh, Charlie Kirk destroys student, and you just see it where he does sort of, tie people up in logical knots, and they just, they can't process it. As I mentioned, because they're insane. Yeah. Now, unfortunately, Charlie Kirk was assassinated when he was doing one of these talks, and it was sad enough, the fact that he was killed. What made it just 100 times worse, in my opinion, was immediately afterwards, you've got all these TikToks, you've got all these tweets, you've got all these people from what look like normal human beings celebrating his death. Now, there are very few people in this world whose death I would celebrate. I've got a couple that spring to mind, but they've earned it, okay? They've earned it from doing very bad things to people on a consistent basis. Charlie Kirk's crime to the left was being able to articulate his thoughts better than them. That's it. And because of that, these people celebrated his death. That's what makes them so evil, is that, okay, you can disagree with someone politically, but to actually wish death upon them because of that, basically in the battleground of ideas, they're basically cancelling it. They're saying, nope, we're not having discussions anymore. We're just going to go straight to violence. So that's what kind of makes them even more evil. The next characteristic leads right onto this. This is an image from the George Floyd riots back in whenever. I mean, honestly, who cares? He was a drugged up guy who overdosed. We all know that. Yeah. When the left don't get their way, they turn to violence. Now, as I mentioned, these people are weak. So when they turn to violence, they have to go over the top to make a point. Because they know if they just stand around, no one's going to take them seriously because they're all a bunch of little skinny pussies, right? So they set fire to things. They shoot things. People have died in these riots, but nobody wanted to cover that, okay? Because, George Floyd is more important. When right-wing people, I don't say right-wing, again, that's just me using that term, but when you get, I don't know, let's say British nationalists or people, who don't like certain things, when they go out protesting, they don't destroy things. They've got marshals, they've got wardens, they've got, it's all, they've got maybe a whistle and a flag, but, there's no weapons or anything. But the left, every time something bad happens, or I say bad, something they don't like happens, it turns to violence. They have to go burn things. They have to destroy things. It's absolutely ridiculous. So, yeah, that's another characteristic, and they are violent people. And the last thing I want to mention, I'm not going to put any pictures up for this one, is there seems to be a strong correlation between radical leftists and people getting arrested for stuff about children. I'm just going to leave that there. You can Google it if you like, but it does happen a lot. There was even a song saying we're coming for your kids. Turned out half of them actually were trying to go for your kids. So that's it. So in a nutshell, those are the characteristics of the left. So they're weak, they're unattractive, they're intolerant, they're cannibalistic, they're evil, they're violent, and that last one. So what should you do if you ever meet somebody who identifies themselves as being on the left? Now, when I say on the left, they'll generally mean radically left, because people who are sort of centrist don't say they're on the left. They might say they like some leftist stuff, but they'll never say I'm on the left. Well, firstly, what you should do is gently exit the conversation, because there's no reasoning with these people. There's no talking to them. Even if, it's a colleague or a neighbor or just, I don't know, a friend of a friend, just don't engage with them, okay? These people have proven time and time again that they wish death upon you. They have no interest in compromising with you, and anything that you hold dear should be stripped away from you if you don't agree with what they say. That's, I think, what I can legally say, because I'm not going to say what I would do if I met any one of these people, but I can tell you right now, as I said, they're weak. I don't think I'd have a problem. But that's the thing. That's going to be it for today. So it's a bit of a downer one. Hopefully a bit of levity, but we've got a lot of sort of news, like the government media. They're always saying the far right's the problem. The far right's the problem. the left are good, and because they all identify as being on the left, they can never say anything bad about the left. So just I hope this is a bit of an eye opener. If you meet anyone who's got a Palestine Action T-shirt, said they voted for Jeremy Corbyn, gone to a pro-Palestine rally, disassociate yourself from them, remove them. I say block them on all social medias. Just keep that person away from you, because one day it might come back to bite you in the arse. So that's going to be it for today. Stay away from the left, and have a fantastic rest of your day. Bye bye.